Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. This is part 10 of my top 100 least favorite horror movies list. Where, look, I'm just not going to sugarcoat it. These are movies that I fucking hated. Especially when it gets to this point. There were some I just didn't like for whatever reason. Maybe somewhat didn't like or really didn't like. Then we get to the top 50, and it's getting the ones that I really didn't like. And once we got to about the top 40, but especially the top 30, now we're getting into the nitty gritty and the crap that I really, really hated. And now we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Now, look, there are plenty of movies that I didn't cover. Some that I haven't seen, some that were Netflix originals that were just flat out stupid. But quite a few of these in particular, with the exception of the top two, were all movies that at least had some form of a budget and at least seemed to have competent people somewhere in there. And this just was, for whatever reason, it didn't work, and that's where these rants are going to get vicious. So just going to move on from that and go right into the rants. Number 11, Jeepers Creepers 2. Oh Christ, what a stark contrast from the first one. The first one was absolutely brilliant. I love the first one. Even with the director being what he is, and I'm not going to go into that right here. Not exactly the best guy. I'm still going to give credit to the movie and the cast and the atmosphere and stuff like that. The movie was fucking tremendous. Jeepers Creepers 2, however, I'm like, okay, sequel, whatever. Okay, it isn't going to be as good as the first one, but it'll be fun. Had no connection to the previous characters except one seemed to sort of have a pseudo connection with the creature. There's a bunch of it's like high schoolers and everything, cheerleaders and sports jocks and everything as opposed to other kinds of jocks on a freaking bus, and they're in the middle of a bunch of cornfields and stuff like that, and suddenly the creeper's there. He's a scarecrow or something, and he wakes up and he's gonna feast. And I guess maybe this took place very shortly after the events of the first one. And I only say that because, of course, every 23 years for 23 days it gets to eat. So, it's been a bit since I've seen it, so I don't quite remember the timeline of it. But there was also a guy that said that was saying out to try and save these kids and kill the creeper and this kind of stuff. And the weird thing is despite the pumped up special effects and everything and the alleged bigger budget, the creeper didn't look nearly as scary. I mean, he kept pointing to people like he would appear, hanging upside down and everything, and would like point and everything. And when he finds somebody he likes that has something he likes, eyes, tongue, ears, whatever, he'll target them and take it from them and then kill them. I mean, pretty much, because, he'll let his victims bleed out. He doesn't really care. He's a creature that just wants to keep living, and likes to kill people. I mean, that's pretty much the whole basis of it. The thing is with this movie, the brother and sister from the first movie had a decent amount of chemistry. They had some smarts to them, even if they weren't going to outsmart anybody. Anybody, including like the creeper. They just couldn't do it no matter any knowledge of horror movies that they had. The inside references and stuff like that. This one had no likable characters. None. And the people that were douchey were overly douchey. Like any of the women, any of the guys. One guy, I'm going to kill him or whatever, and he's, of course, the biggest goddamn coward there. And then one of the girls, like I said, has a connection to the creeper. There's not a lot to it. There's really not. I mean, you got the guy that finds a way to kill the creeper try and kill the creeper. He fires like a giant, almost harpoon-like thing, a giant arrow, and tries stabbing her like a giant spear. It's almost like, it's ridiculous. Then he tries killing the thing, but of course the creature hardens up into like almost a cocoon. You can't kill it. But you don't give a shit about if anybody lives or dies in this movie. And that's kind of the frustrating thing. It's like everybody's noisy. The script is less scary. The scares just aren't there. The atmosphere just isn't there. It's very, very dark to where you really can't see what's going on. Sometimes movies will do that to cover budget, budget limits, or to set atmosphere or this kind of stuff, or just because they don't want to pay for a ton of lighting. See Alone in the Dark. I mean, I know it says It has dark in the title, but Uwe Boll doesn't know how to direct movies at all. He's a blight on, Hollywood or anything to do with Hollywood. Jeepers Creepers 2 is an example. It wasn't directed by Uwe Boll. Might as well have been, though. I mean, actually, no, that's not fair, because at least there was a semblance of acting where people didn't seem to have a gun point at their head just off camera. Jeepers Creepers 2 was bad. I have not seen Jeepers Creepers 3 yet. The limited release it was. I have not had a chance to see that yet. It could have been on here. It could have been just as good as the first one. I don't know. But number 2, the whole thing of like trying to kill the creeper, and then you go 23 years later, the guy's got the creeper in his cocoon, like mounted in his barn, and has got the spear gun and everything ready, so as soon as it busts out, he can fire it at it. But it's just an exercise in just bland. It's an exercise in blandness and annoyance. Like you're annoyed by these characters and you can't wait for them to die. And if you can't find anybody to root for in a horror movie, I mean, even a little bit, then that's saying something. I mean, it's one thing to see, oh yeah, we want to cheer for the killer, like cheer for Jason, cheer for Freddy, this kind of stuff, because we want to see people die. Okay, cool. But at least a couple of the characters, even in the sequels, even in the lame sequels, had a smidgen of depth to them. None of the characters had a bit of depth at all in this. And now we go to number 10, Atrocious. I don't know who the fuck directed this. I don't care who the fuck directed this. This was, I believe, a Spanish movie. It was either set in Spain. I think it was set in Spain, some part of Spain, in the countryside, where a family goes to this house, this old house that, like, I guess they had or they rented from somebody. It was a friend. Something always gets lost in translation when it comes to captions, so I don't know how, accurate the captions necessarily were. But you have a husband and wife, brother, sister, and you got a dog. And the dog's the best actor in the movie. And of course, guess what happens to the dog? What always happens to animals in these goddamn movies? The dog dies. The dog ends up at the bottom of a well. There is a maze, like a grass maze, almost Shining style. The Shining had no fucking material to it and was devoid of any life. You have the brother and sister, and of course it's first person camera as opposed to like using a monocle or like just searching like that using a little telescope. First person camera and that kind of stuff. That's pretty much how the footage is done. It's only like 70 to 75 minutes, and I remember watching thinking, okay, this is going to be fun. I didn't think the movie was going to be that great. I really, 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 really didn't. I did not think that this was going to be very good. I actually thought it was going to be, I thought it was going to be shit, but I thought it was going to be fun to make fun of. This wasn't even fun to make fun of. And it felt like they cut down a bunch out of the movie, but also they padded it, like exponentially. You had a few cameras set up around the house or whatever, so the brother could possibly catch stuff that was going on. He would sometimes catch weird glowing lights or weird figures out in the woods or something. I don't know. I don't even think the director necessarily knew. And then, like I said, the dog dies. The kids get lost in the maze at some points. They're more teens, so they're not necessarily kids, but they get lost in the maze. And then the mother it turns out that the mother ends up killing people. It's like she's, schizophrenic or possessed by Satan, or she didn't like that somebody shredded her coupons that were 2 days away from expiring. I'm not really sure necessarily. I don't know. It was maybe she was possessed by Consuela from Family Guy, and she didn't like that somebody didn't give her lemon pledge. I don't know, honestly. It was ridiculous. None of the scares meant anything. Nothing scary happened until ever. Nothing scary happened, but nothing really happened until 55 minutes, maybe 60 minutes into the movie. And then it's always in these found footage movies, like the last 15 to 20 minutes. They're like, oh, hey, you've managed to keep the movie under budget to this point, so here's some money. Oh, we can actually do shit. Hooray. Lights start going out. People are dying, the few people that are in the damn movie. And then you see the mother watching tapes, or somebody watching tapes, where the mother was like mentally ill or something. I mean, or she was a killer and she was put away in a mental institution, and the kids weren't really hurt. I mean, it was so bleak and it was so confusing because they just started throwing shit at you that you didn't really care. And I mean, of course, the police were investigating the whole damn thing, and they put up a thing in the beginning where the police compiled this footage and everything, found this camera with this footage, and the mother, the mother wasn't any kind of decent film. There was really nothing. There was nothing here. It was atrocious in every sense of the goddamn word. Now, that is one thing about this movie. It had a very, very accurate title. quite, quite frankly, I was angered by this because whatever happened, this movie could have at least been a little bit of fun. And I mean, even with the footage, even with the found footage stuff, even with the fact that that's been done to death, it was not very good. Not very good at all. Not scary. The dog didn't need to die except to kill off interest in the movie. Because again, the dog is the best actor, and it was barely in the movie. But it's like you didn't feel any sympathy. You didn't care if somebody died or whatever. And they tried to make it seem like the house was isolated. There could have been a house, 100 yards away for all we knew. They could have just picked the one camera location that shot out to some woods or shot out to the maze or something like that. It had beautiful cinematography. It did. It looked like a really cool locale. I'll say that much, but I didn't give a shit about any of the cast. Cast could have died in the beginning of the damn movie, and they could have just strapped the camera to the dog, and the dog could have just rolled around for 75 minutes, and that probably would have been better. Except the last time a movie strapped a camera to a dog, it was the end of VHS 2, and fuck you for killing that goddamn dog. That was the Alien one. That I don't remember what the title of it was, but the aliens took people and they took the dog up with the guy, and then the dog ended up falling back down to earth and dying. And I'm like, yeah, fuck you, movie, for doing that. You could have just left with the implication that the dog died. You didn't need to show that. I'm not much of a fan of animal violence necessarily in movies. Mainly because last time I saw anybody abuse an animal, I actually proceeded to shove them down into a car hood and said, I said, you abuse that animal again, I said, you will get the police here. Like, I can't stand that shit. I've actually kicked people out of my work. The various works I've done when I've seen them try to talk to animals that way. I've called the police on people. I will not tolerate that. Anyway, it's alright. But Atrocious was crap. And Absolutely Atrocious, so fitting name. Number 9, All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. Well, Amber Heard looked good in it. That's about it. I mean, honestly. You knew what the damn movie was going to be. You knew, obviously, who the killer was going to be. And, I mean, it was almost filmed a bit, I don't want to say a bit Grindhouse-like, but a bit almost snuff film-like. And they were trying to make it artsy, and it wasn't. This seemed to have sat on the shelf for a couple years. And you're watching, and you're like, okay, why do all the boys love Mandy Lane? Mandy Lane must be a lesbian or something, or Mandy Lane must be saving herself for somebody, or whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter. All the boys, all the girls love Mandy Lane. The screenwriter certainly didn't, and guess what? The fans certainly didn't. This was an exercise in torture. Watching anybody get killed, you're like, okay, whatever. I don't care. The revelation of the killer, and then the dealing with the killer, you're like, okay. I mean, I remember watching it. I watched this on Netflix or something like that, and I was like, this is embarrassing. 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh boy, this is bad. This is really bad. Oh, maybe it'll pick up and be fun. No, it's not going to pick up and be fun. It was really, really shitty. And again, Amber Heard, good looking woman. Maybe, hopefully, can get her head right since I don't know, maybe being around Nicolas Cage would probably drive anyone crazy, but it was one of those where I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, something's going to happen, and it didn't seem like much happened at first, and then when stuff started happening, I go, okay, when is stuff going to happen? And I'm talking like death, or we got to get out of this house, and no, we can't. People are someone's targeting us. Who is targeting us? Does it really matter? No, it doesn't really matter. It could be one character. Because there's only one goddamn person that could have been the goddamn killer. All the goddamn time. and everybody's trying to act, oh no, you're the killer, oh no, who is it? And, it wasn't even a big cast either. I mean, there was a decent body count, but not a great body count. But it wasn't like it wasn't obvious who the killer was. Try me. Then one thing I'll leave out to people: if you really want to watch this, you'll figure out who the killer is right away. Right when they show who it is, you'll be like, okay, that's the killer. But yeah, All the Boys Love Manny Lane. No, the trash. It deserves to be in the top 10. Number 8, The Happening. M. Night Shyamalan should have had his director's license revoked. The Village was shit. Lady in the Water wasn't. Lady in the Water tried, but wasn't very good. I hated The Village. I want to say that much right there. But even though that one tried to present itself as horror, it was more drama. The Happening tried to present itself as horror. Oh, the trees are doing it. Mother Nature is tired of stuff. They're releasing a toxin from the trees and plants to kill people and to show people, hey, you need to respect the plant, or I'm gonna kill you. It was an eco-friendly thing where I remember I watched it, and I watched it with my girlfriend at the time, and it was funny. We actually broke up soon after this movie. Probably should have been a pretty good indication. But plants and trees are releasing toxins. A toxin that's causing people to be suicidal. Throw themselves off of buildings, shoot themselves in the head, lay down and let a sudden runaway giant lawnmower roll them over, stab themselves in the neck with a pen. The idea behind it was ridiculous. I mean, it could have worked if it wasn't so heavy-handed with the respect the planet, motive and everything and plot, which I get. Yes, we should respect the planet. I mean, it's the only planet we're living on, but you can't tell me that this was the way to go about it. This really, really wasn't. This movie was an exercise in torture. Absolute exercise in torture. Zooey Deschanel, John Leguizamo, Mark Wahlberg. I don't remember who the guy that had the greenhouse was that liked hot dogs. But he's a fine. That's just the way he sounded in the movie. I don't remember the guy's name, but I've seen him in other stuff. He's a pretty fine actor. The cast actually in itself, at least a few actors, even though I'm not a big fan of John Leguizamo, I don't hate the guy. I thought, okay, there's something that could work here, and no, it just didn't. It's like the only way you should watch this, if you have the movie, sync up the riff track. If you're a fan of riff tracks, Mike, Bill, and Kevin from MST fame, buy the commentary track that they do for this and sync it up, and everything is hilarious as fuck. Hilarious. And it's the only way to get through this movie, because it was bad. And the ending of it, they figure out the plants. They hide in this one lady's house. This one lady goes absolutely nuts or whatever with these two kids that Zooey and Mark Wahlberg rescue, because I don't remember. I don't remember what the reasoning was. I don't really give a shit. I think one was like John Leguizamo was a kid, but anyway. So we're at this house. This old lady's like walking, bashes the window open and stuff like that, and Mark and Zoe have this weird, stupid thing because one's in one house and one's in the guest house somewhere. Oh, I'm coming out to greet you, and they come out to greet each other, and then suddenly the planet stops killing people, or at least in the U.S. And they greet, and then you have the pro-nature message and stuff like that on there, and it's really, really bad. And then it goes to France and starts killing people. I mean, I'm not the biggest expert on France, but I think they're a little more ahead of like being eco-friendly more than the U.S. is, but whatever. I think it was planned to possibly be a sequel. Good thing we didn't go with that. I mean, really, like The Happening, it was The Crappening. It was M. Night Shyamalan should have been embarrassed by what he did. I mean, looking back on it, he lucked into a lot of movies. Like, I enjoyed The Sixth Sense. I thought Unbreakable was his best movie. Signs, you started to see some cracks. But it was still better than other movies. Even though it was an indication of things to come from Mel Gibson and possibly Joaquin Phoenix, since he's gone off the deep end. But yeah, from The Village to Lady in the Water to The Happening was the bottom. And then The Last Airbender happened, which was really the bottom, but that's not a horror movie. It's just horrifying what he did with the source material. But yeah, the happening. No deaths were bad. Nothing. It was just, it was a mess. It was a mess. It was a goddamn mess. I mean, a hot mess, whatever you want to call it. It was shit. And now we move on to number 7, Diary of the Dead. It was found footage zombie shit. I believe George A. Romero had a hand in it. He might even directed it. Don't quote me on that, but I think he might have. And there were a few good aspects in this. A few. But I'm going to tell you why it's ranked so high. There were a few good aspects. Using social media, people talking about the zombie apocalypse or whatever as the zombie outbreak is happening. The first person perspective at first wasn't so bad. Except to the question, why are you filming all this? Put the camera down, help your friends. Except this one guy's bound and determined to film the thing in case society survives and he can, I don't know, sell this, or he's documenting this, or he made a bet with somebody that he's going to make the most boneheaded decision at the end of the movie that I'll get to in a minute. And other than that, that was it. And there was, of course, the typical satire that anything Romero influenced would have. And Romero was way ahead of the curve doing that stuff. I will fully give him credit for that. Land of the Dead, by the way, is not on here. As much as I didn't like it, Land of the Dead was fine. It was fine. It wasn't great. But Diary of the Dead. Chiefly, here's the reason. One, there's no likable characters in the goddamn movie. You don't root for the guy holding the camera, and I don't remember any of the characters' names, and I don't need to remember any of the characters' names. His girlfriend or his friend that's a girl with him, they have a rich friend that has a house. It's a sanctuary, and he's on camera suddenly talking to them, like on a Skype call or something, or an internet call. And he seems like he's not doing so well or whatever. And I said to my friend, I said he's going to end up being a zombie by the time they get there. And they end up getting there. Of course, they end up in a hospital trying to get help for somebody. And there are zombies. And you gotta they seem like real people fighting a zombie apocalypse where they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like they really don't know how to breathe or anything without help. But then it's like none of the violence is any good. I mean, again, the whole use of social media or whatever was fine. I liked that well enough, but watching what they were doing here, it's like, okay, this is why it gets ranked so high. One, it limped along really, really badly. None of the kills were inventive or whatever. All the zombie stuff was pretty stupid. But the ending sequence, they get to the friend's house. Of course, the friend's a zombie. Of course, zombies start breaking in. The guy's got a panic room with plenty of supplies and this kind of stuff and cameras where they can watch. And once they lock it, I mean, they can get out, but it's going to be a while. They're locked in for a while. They're in the panic room. Okay, they're in the panic room. Safe. The few people that are remaining. Guy's like, I need to go back out and film this thing. Runs out, runs down the stairs, gets attacked by a zombie. When he was perfectly safe. And then the girl, of course, fights off the zombie, I think kills her, friend, boyfriend, whatever, and takes the camera, because you gotta take the goddamn camera, and go back to the panic room, and you see people, and you see zombies wandering all over the house and this kind of stuff. But it's that bone-headed ending where I'm just like, I don't care how important it is to film something. Guess what? If my life's on the line, I'm going to stay inside. Like, that was just embarrassing as fuck. It was really bad. Diary of the Dead was dog shit. It was a fucking embarrassment. Especially for the cast, because the cast was shit. Anyway, that's what I got to say. So I got one more part to do. Going to do the last 6 movies here for the next part. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Do you agree, disagree so far with what I've been saying in this countdown? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. It's been Real Honesty with Jarwithlin. I'm Jarwithlin. I'll see you all soon.